What's up, Tesla family? It's Ray J back with another video. And in this one, I want to give you guys a very quick update about Tesla SPY and the broader markets. Just know that I am not a financial planner, so take nothing I'm saying as financial advice whatsoever. Anyways, there's not really any major news coming out for Tesla this morning, and Tesla's going to be very reactive to the overall market, in my opinion. I'm still seeing the same headlines we talked about yesterday about the Cybertruck making all the news for Tesla, about how there's going to be over 6,000 Cybertrucks being recalled over a defective light bar. So that's not the best of news, at least for Tesla, but Tesla will take care of this issue very quickly. Once again, that is what we're hearing from the NHTSA. Besides that, there's nothing else that's just too crazy. Today's Friday, October 31st. It's Halloween, so have a very happy Halloween, by the way. And I just wanted to say that for today, we have Logan from the Fed giving a speech, then Bostic later on, and that's pretty much it. Nothing else too crazy. It is, however, the last day of October and the last day of the month, while also being the last Friday. So those are going to be some significant things to remember, because typically on Fridays we do see some manipulation. Today, we have millions of option expirations with a 2.91 puts to call option ratio. And in terms of news, the market is still reacting to the big tech earnings we were talking about. Amazon stock did very well, beating expectations and looking for great growth. Amazon stock is still on fire. Apple's also still up because we saw them end up beating expectations, and the demand for the new iPhone is quite strong alongside the Chinese sales, which are expected to improve. And then we're also starting to see other tech stocks trying to bounce, at least after all the selling we saw yesterday. Besides that, I'm not seeing anything else too wild on the news. So we're just going to be watching and playing the price action. So I just want to be very unbiased about this. The market dumped quite a bit yesterday. Tesla took a big hit. It was down almost or a little bit over like 4%. But in the after hours, we started to bounce with the big tech earnings. And I think that Tesla's still trying to bounce here. If we could hold above 445, we're looking for an attempt for 450. If that breaks, we could be going even higher. But if we can't hold above 450 and if we reject, this does resemble a left shoulder, a head, and a right shoulder. And that could take us back down to fill this gap. In case we do end up losing 440, there's a gap to fill back down at 434 or below. So be careful as time goes on. We're going to see if this head and shoulders pans out. That's what we're going to essentially be watching for, at least on Tesla stock. For other tickers out there, we have SPY. So we're basically going to gap up. And I just want to make this very clear. Tesla, SPY, the QQQ, everything is going to gap up when we open. But will we hold above the key resistances? Will we continue to break out? Or is this just going to be a gap up that creates another gap, which leads to another sell-off, right? That is what could end up happening. There could be a sell-off again if that ends up being the case. So once again, if Tesla breaks 450, we're bullish. If we can't, if we kind of like push here, there could be a rejection and move back down to 440 or below, especially as we have another gap down here to fill. Once again, for us to kind of like gap up like this and then come back down to fill the gap and fall with the head and shoulders. All right. So SPY has a very similar setup. We basically had this big rally approaching FOMC like this. Notice we still had this gap over here. We came down, we did not fully fill this gap. Then we're going to basically gap up to about 686. If we hold above 687, we're looking for an attempt for 688. And if we break those resistances, we're looking for new all-time highs, just in case we're bullish, in case this just continues. But if we can't hold above 686, there is going to be a risk of us returning to 682. If we lose 682, then I think we dump back down to 677. So break 688, we're bullish. Lose 682, we're more bearish. Expect us to gap up, and we're going to see if we reject to come back down to fill the gap. Also, don't forget it is, once again, Friday, and Fridays are known for manipulation, so do expect some chop when we open, and we will see if we get a sell-off or not, depending on the direction and levels. On the QQQ, it's the same thing. This is trying to pump, but the question is, do we break past 636 and see new all-time highs, or do we gap up like this and reject? If we get a rejection, lose 632, there is going to be a risk of us filling this overnight gap, taking us back down to like 626. And if that doesn't hold, once again, there's a second gap way down here, and this could be like a double top. So I said to be very careful in my video yesterday. If we break all-time highs, we're going to remain bullish and we could invalidate the downside. But if we just gap up and reject, we could be dipping. On the IWM, we're kind of flat here. Could be looking for a small push. It barely even bounced to begin with, but there are gaps to fill. So it might pump for like 246. If it holds above 248, it could turn bullish. If we don't, we could kind of pump and reject. So keep that in mind. On ES, we have resistance at 69.20, and we have support down here at 6900. If that doesn't hold, we could be dipping back down to 6860. So if we bounce here, we could be once again tipping back down in case we get some kind of rejection move. There's also this gap that's unfilled still. I do think ES tries to push upon open a little bit, then we're going to see if it turns or not. Same thing with NQ, might push for 26,300, and we'll see if we turn or not. If we take out the all-time high, it's bullish, but if we come short, we could gap up and turn, so be very careful. Bitcoin's going to likely retest 110,500 to 111,200. Then we'll see if we reject or not. For Tesla, we're going to see if we bounce a little bit before we get a rejection, so there's a possible head and shoulders. Nvidia is going to likely gap up and try to push, but here's the thing about Nvidia. We need to take out 210. If we don't, there is a gap to return back down to 204. Look for a test of 208 to 210, and we'll see if we reject off that or not. Apple's, it's pushing. It's going to gap up, but can we take out 280 to continue? If we don't, we could return to 275. However, what will be more beneficial for the markets is Amazon, which is once again still going to be pumping as long as it's above 250. Expect this to continue for 260 plus. Looks quite bullish. If coin does not break 345, it could be tipping to like 335. Meta kind of pumped and now it's starting to slow down. Can we get back above 680? If not, we may continue to fall for like 660 or below. Google needs to take out 287. If not, we could be dipping to 282. And then Microsoft might be retesting 529. We need to break past that to continue to push. It looks like it wants to bounce a bit for like 530, but then we're going to see if it rejects near there. So expect the market to gap up and we open. And if we take out near all-time highs, of course, SPY and the QQQ could remain bullish. If we reject where we currently are, though, there's going to be a big gap below to fill and the market could reject. So watch that very closely. With Tesla, I do think that there's the possibility of a left shoulder, a head, and then a right shoulder, which could lead to a pump and dump. So be very careful with this gap down here to fill. So please keep that in mind. Thank you all so much for listening. That's your update for now. I do think that Tesla may attempt to push a little bit higher, but then the problem is there's going to be some tough resistance closer to 450, and we're going to be watching if this head and shoulders like pattern pans out. We have the left shoulder, we have the head. Will the right shoulder give us that pump and dump? And does Tesla come back down to fill this gap? It's very possible. So watch your levels just to be safe. All right. So watch your levels. Do what you have to do, guys. I'll be back very soon with another update in just a couple of hours. Until then, I wish you all the best as always, and peace out.